All right, so with estimating percents, what you can do is think of the percent as a decimal and a fraction. So 5%, if you say 5%, it's like saying 5 cents. How do you write that as a decimal? Well, 5 cents, 5 in the cents place. So percent to decimal, you can think of it as saying it like money, which is 0.05. What is it as a fraction? Well, that's 5 over 100, but that simplifies to 1 over 20. 10%, anything 10, 100, 1,000 is talking about moving the decimal place. So think of like your exponential scientific notation. So 10% is 0.1. It also means 10%, 10 cent. Okay, that would be 0.10 for 10 cents. What is that written as a fraction? It means 1 for every 10. 25% is 0.25, 25 cent, 25 cents. That is 1/4, and then so forth. Keep in mind, 100% would be 1.0, which is written as 1 over 1 or 1 whole. If you had 200%, that would be 2.0, and 2 as a whole number. So with estimation, what you do is you look at the percent and then what they're giving you. So they're asking what's 21% of 66. Pretend if you were going to eat at a restaurant, you would usually tip 20% of the $66 bill. So how much should you leave? Well, if you think about it, this is close to 20%. So if you were to round, what you want to do is use compatible numbers. You could, with this, think 10%, which would be 6.6, plus 10%, 6.6, which is 12, close to 13, and get the answer. So there are multiple ways to do it. Here is one way for the work. 10% of 66 is 6.6. 10% is, again, 6.6. 10% plus 10% is 20%. This is estimating, so that's pretty close. So if we're at 20%, then you just add these two numbers up. Okay, well 6 plus 6 is 12, and then we'll round that. So the answer is about 13. Another thing that students might do, they might just say, okay, 20% of 66. They might go 2, because it's 20%. Okay, so that's 2 for every 10. That means 2 times 66 is about 7 groups of 10. So 2 for every 10 method. And so I would round 66 to 70. If you did 2 for every 10, it would be 2 times 7. Your estimate would be about 14. So it just depends on how you show your work, but those are the different ways to estimate. If you have 36% of 120, again, you're going to look at it and say, okay, well, 36% is close to 40%. So 40% of 120, I could think of it as, okay, that's 4 for every 10. So 4 times, this would be 12, which would be an estimate of about 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 48 would be my estimate. Otherwise, if you look at it from inside of the book, they will do 10%, which is equal to 12. And since you have 10%, 10%, 1, 2, 3, and then 5%, 5% is half of that, so it's 6. Your other estimate that you could have would be 2, 4, 6, 12, 42. So again, estimation will range. It's all about what do you see and what are you rounding it to. It needs to make sense. So you round the percents and the numbers, or if you want more precision, you break it down by the percent using what's up here to get the actual answer. Other ways that we could do this is using the fraction method, especially if you have compatible numbers. So 73% of 99, you might want to think, all right, well, 73% is about 3/4 because that's what 73% is as a fraction of times 99 would be close to 100. So then some students will say, okay, well, that means 3 times 100, which is 300 over 4. And then you can look at it and say, all right, well, 4 goes into 30 7 times. That leaves 2 over. And then 4 goes into 20, 75. So that would be an estimate that is getting it close if you use the fraction method. Otherwise, what you can think of is, again, 73% of 99. Some students might think 7 of how many 10s are there? There are 10s in there, so that's about 70. So again, it can range. It just depends on how you see your estimation. 48% of 30 is about what number? Okay, well, 48%, you can think of this as either 50%, or you can think of it as 1/2, whatever you want. So let's just say we want to do 1/2 of 30. Well, half of 30 is 15, so that can be one estimate. Otherwise, you might think, okay, that means 5, because that's 50%, so that means 5 for every 10. 5 times how many 10s are there? There are 3 10s, so then I get 15. So I'm just showing you there are multiple ways to estimate your fractions, and even though I'm showing it in paper, ultimately it's to help you so that you can do this stuff inside of your head, especially if you're going to tip at a restaurant, or if you want to know what you need to get on a test, things like that. This will help you. All right, once you get into the repeating decimal type questions, things like that, well, 63 and 1/2%, I really wouldn't want to go to a percent with that because I know it's a repeating. So instead, that's when you really definitely want to use the fraction method. So when I think of 63, I think of 63.33333. Well, that is 2/3 as a fraction. So I need to get 2/3 of 239. Well, 3 doesn't go into that evenly, so I'm going to round this up to 240. Okay, now that I have that, 2 times 240 is 480 divided by 3. 3 goes into 4 one whole time, leaves the 180 there. 3 goes into 18 6 times, and then drops the 0, so 160. And again, with 33.5, I would still round it and use the fraction method, so 1/3 of 26. Well, I know it doesn't go into 26, but I do know it goes into 27. So when you see the word compatible number, it's saying find and round it to a number that it goes close to. Yes, it could round to 30, but that's pretty high. That's going to be a little off. It's not very precise. So it would be best to round the number to the nearest value that the denominator can go into, which is 27. So 3 goes into 27. This estimate would be about 9. All right, a word problem. A printing company thinks that 6% of its books that it prints have errors. Out of a printing run of 2,050 books, the production manager estimates that 250 books have errors. Estimate to see if the manager's number is reasonable, then explain. Okay, well, they're saying that they believe 6% of books printed equals error. That's what it's stating, so that's your given. Okay, well, 6% of what? It says 6% of how many books were printed? Okay, 2050 is printed. And the manager estimated, he says that the estimate to this problem is 250. So we're checking to see if this is reasonable. All right, so first thing you need to do before you can say if it's reasonable is just simply solve, and let's just see what is our estimate. So pretend you don't even know what they predicted. All right, well, 6% of 2050. So you have to figure out, what do you think that the estimate should be? All right, well, if we take 10%, 6% is about half of 10%. So 10% of 2050, remember, that means move the decimal one place. So 10% equals 205. But do we want 10%? No, we want 6%. 6% is about half of that. So if we were to cut this in half, that means that we're going to divide this by 2 because we want to get it to 5%. So 2 goes into 2 one whole time, and then 2 cannot go into the 0, and 2 goes into 5 about 2 whole times. So your estimate should be close to 102 books. Okay, so I got, out of 2,050 books, 102 books would have errors if you go by the 6% rule. Is that what they got? They said 250 books. Would this be reasonable? The answer to this is no. 250 books is way too many, since 6% is close to 102 books with error. What would 250 be? Well, 102, that's 10%. That means that this would be like 13%. That's way too many. So that's too high of an estimate, and it's beyond what is reasonable.